Density. Density, we may or may not know, is you can calculate it by using what we've already been studying, which is mass and volume. Because density, if you think about it, it's how tightly packed together a mass is. So we're dealing with the amount of matter in something, the mass, and the space it takes up, or how tightly packed together it is, the volume. So density equals, just like it says on the screen, mass divided by volume. How much matter in a certain amount of space. So if I take a lot of matter and squish it into a really tiny amount of space, that's really dense. If I take a little bit of matter and give it a lot of space, it's nice and fluffy, that would be less dense. How do you calculate that though? The calculation for density is this right here. Density equals mass divided by volume. Well, if I find the mass of something like we used to do in the triple beam balance, right? And I know the volume of it or how big it is, I can always find out how tightly packed together the particles are, or the density. But how do you remember that formula right there? Density equals mass divided by volume. It seems kind of simple, like, oh, it's just three variables, but there's a really easy way to always remember this. Here it is. Density equals your heart. Oh. How to calculate density? Look at the top of the heart is shaped like an M, and the bottom of the heart is shaped like a V. So it's D equals M over V, or heart. Very easy. I learned that from a student 2 years ago. Let's take an example here. A stick has a mass of 100 grams, and the same stick has a volume of 20 cubic centimeters. Well, we know with density that density equals mass, which is 100 grams, divided by volume, which would be 20 cubic centimeters. So you take 100 divided by 20, which equals 5. 5 grams per cubic centimeter, because we're dealing with grams and cubic centimeters. What is that saying? It says that per little centimeter cube, little box is centimeter cube, it's 5 grams. The mass would be 5 grams. You have to be really careful. This is the last thing, not to confuse density equals volume divided by mass. Because sometimes in problems, they give you the volume first. They'll say like a stick has a volume of 100 cubic centimeters, and then it says the same stick has a mass of 20 grams. Well, sometimes students think, well, I'll just take the first number divided by the second one, and then I'll get the density. But that would be taking the volume divided by the mass, which is not density, because we know that density is mass divided by volume. So we have to flip them. See where it says the same stick has a mass of 20 grams? Well, we have to take that number first, 20 grams, because that's the mass, divided by the volume. And it says a stick has a volume of 100 cubic centimeters. So we take 20 divided by 100, which would give us 0.2. It's vastly different than 5, right? So be careful on that one. Sometimes they flip them. Just watch. Always mass divided by volume, not volume divided by mass. Hopefully that helps you understand how to calculate density, because you have a little activity or assignment today that's going to ask you to practice calculating density. And there you go. Enjoy. Remember.